another episode of Youth Politico. This week, it's another woman, yes, another lady. Today we are glad and happy.
I like that.
We are glad and happy to be joined by a lady who has very many accolades to her name. Ndanzawabi. Top 5 under 25 most promising young women in Kenya in the year 2016.
Yes.
2018 top 100 most influential young Kenyan.
Yes.
She's a youth advocate.
Yes.
She's a director at the Center for Advocacy and Awareness on the Rights of Youth. I got that right?
Yes.
Mama Masa.
Yes. Some say Malisafi.
Malisafi.
Yes.
Ruth Ambogo.
Yes.
Welcome to Youth Political.
Thank you so much.
You know, Ruth is a very special name to me.
Oh my goodness.
Because
Tell me.
there's a very special woman in my life.
Oh really?
My mom.
Oh wow.
She's good Manju.
And I hope you know that Roots are very powerful women.
My mom is a principal.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
She must be a disciplinarian as well.
She's the most feared person in the family.
And focused.
Exactly.
Kabisa. That is exactly who I am.
Karibu sana, karibu sana.
Asante sana.
So, how is COVID taking you?
COVID, well, I look at COVID in a lot of ways. First of all, myself personally, how have I been affected? In terms of COVID itself, have I been affected? And the answer is yes. Last year, I actually got COVID in, I think, September. And I got COVID in September, I think, from Kakamega. We had gone for some political, I will be very honest, we had gone for some political event in Kakamega last year, and a movement I am a member of called Mulembe Youth Movement, and where I'm a national coordinator, by the way. So we had gone to Kakamega, actually we had gone to Vihiga for an event, and then we went somewhere in Kakamega. We were not listening to what government was saying. We went, had a hangout in Kakamega with the leaders who were there. And that's how I got COVID. I came back to Nairobi, and next thing I know, I had lost my sense of smell and taste completely. But I thank God, I think my immunity is very high, because I actually did not experience anything else over and above losing sense of taste and smell and just a bit of sore throat, kidogo too. But nikapona, without medication, without anything. I just took, lemons and how people are taking lemon water, honey, dawa, I was just feeding myself that, and I made sure I isolated myself from people, and I eventually recovered. But economically, yes, COVID has affected me. Socially, it has also affected me. At some point, again, I will mention last year. I mean, I like being honest. I like being very, very honest. And it is good to be honest. Last year, COVID affected me majorly. At some point when I got very stressed out, I got extremely stressed out because, I'm a firstborn in my family, and I'm a breadwinner pretty much. I'm a firstborn in a very humble family, and a breadwinner, you can say so. You can almost say that I'm a breadwinner because I take care of the family, I take care of my siblings, I pay my siblings' school fees. So when COVID hit, that was the very early months of COVID, I actually ended up getting so stressed. I went through a period of depression because of all the pressure that was going on at the same time, where you have to provide, the resources are getting limited, the jobs, you're getting out of jobs, in and out of jobs, you're getting waylaid, because I remember one of the places I was working at that time actually decided to reduce their staff members, and I was one of the very first people who were told, kaa kando, because we don't have money, and that was just it. I had to accept. There was no other option, and I thank God that now we are in talks again as to how I can go back to work for them. So I think for me, I really felt the heat of the moment, but I tried to be very positive during that period of time. I remember I was doing videos encouraging young people to hang in there, because I know a lot of young people committed suicide during that period of time. A lot of us lost jobs. A lot of us who are running small businesses lost, had to shut down their businesses, and it is still happening today. I remember when I started Carry Africa Center for Advocacy and Awareness on the Rights of Youth in Africa. I started it in the heat of COVID. In fact, COVID motivated me. Now, these are some of the positives, COVID motivated me to start my own organization called Center for Advocacy and Awareness on the Rights of Youth in Africa. And it is not all negative for me, because at the end of the day, what happened during COVID is that COVID pushed the best out of me. It actually brought out the worst in me, in terms of the depression. And by the way, when I went through depression, we are just being honest. I lost friends, you know. At some point I was hospitalized. I lost friends. A lot of them, by the way, I did lose a lot of friends during that period of time. And the beautiful thing that happened with COVID again is, again, it pushed me to start my own organization, because at that time I noticed the gap within the society. The gap that young people don't have a space to express themselves when it comes to matters governance. The gap that that the youth don't have anyone who can take care of them and their interests, anyone who can articulate their interests and issues. And at that time, when I had just been laid off from the organization I was working for, I said, come on, the same skills that I've been putting to this organization, I can actually bring to my own organization. So I started now that Career Africa. We did a lot of activities during COVID. We gave out relief food to children's homes, rescue centers for girls. We visited girls in Kayole. We gave sanitary towels. We went and supported sporting activities in Yani. We just did a lot of things during that period of time. And now here we are. I think for me, eventually now, if I were to be asked, and I think I will even write about this in my history books in the future, I would like to say that eventually what has happened to me is that COVID has made me a very strong person. COVID period brought out the leader in me. COVID period gave me the power and courage to dare to do things, because it has been an unprecedented time where most of us didn't know what to expect, where life turned around upside down, where expectations were unmet, where our fears came out. But COVID has made me a very strong person. COVID period brought out the leader in me. COVID period gave me the power for us Kenyans, that started in March 2020 and ended whichever time it shall end, shaped me into a woman that I never thought I would become.
Sure. Let's take a step back and go to where it all started.
Yes.
Growing up, educational background.
I was born in Kibera.
Really?
Yes, I was.
Mini
dem wa mtaa, lakini you will also come to learn later on that I'm also dem wa ushago kama mbaya sana. My mother gave birth to me when she was very young, at the age of 23. She was in college at the time. And being in college meant that she could not be able to sustain taking care of me. So, and you know, she had just finished, I think she was just finishing. She was still in college and just finishing college, trying to look for a job of how she can sustain herself. And by the way, when they gave birth to me, they went separate ways with my biological father. So when my mom gave birth to me and she was unable to take care of me, my grandmother, actually the inability was because she was still in school, she still didn't have a job. My grandmother, who lives in Lusengeli, Vihiga, told her that, you know what, bring this daughter, she's my granddaughter, let me take care of her as you try to fix your life. And I don't know why that doesn't happen in our generation today, because you find a lot of young girls getting pregnant when they're still in school, and you know, they're still in campus or they're struggling out there. But I don't know what is wrong with our generation today, honestly, because our parents will rarely take in your child, you know. They will rarely take in your child, but my grandmother took me in. And by the way, I tell people, my grandmother refers to me as her last born. And I still also think I am her last born, because she says, and it is very true, that I actually breastfed. I was the last person to breastfeed on my grandmother's, to breastfeed from my grandmother, because I was taken to her when I was 3 months old. At the age of 3 months, my grandmother breastfed me. I know it is an unheard of thing.
Is it scientifically possible?
It is possible. By the way, the men in the studio, I mean in this open studio, I need to educate you on this. That sometimes when you give birth to a child and the mother is unable to breastfeed, by the way, it's a good topic you brought up. When you breastfeed a child and when a mother gives birth, and maybe due to medical complications they are unable to breastfeed, there are women who usually donate their breast milk so that the child can be able to breastfeed, because breastfeeding is an important aspect of a child's growth. I don't have a child yet, but I know that from science that it is actually possible to breastfeed a child from another woman's, a child can be breastfed by another woman. Yes, it's very possible.
I need you to do that research.
Men in the studio, come on, you don't know this. So anyway, seriously, it happens. It happens. There are women who donate breast milk to mothers who, for example, have cancer and because of maybe pain they are unable to breastfeed. Mothers who are HIV positive because they would not want to maybe transmit the disease through breast. I don't know whether it's possible, but I know that certain conditions sometimes prevent mothers from being able to breastfeed, and therefore we usually have women who donate their breast milk. Men, I know it's a new concept, but yes, there it is. So my grandmother breastfed me, so she tells people, and I know I'm her last born. I even refer to her as Mama. So then I went to primary school, a very local, what is it called? A very local nursery school called Ikumba Nursery School back at home. In fact, I visited them very recently, and I noticed the school has grown. They've built like a small structure there. I'll find ways, talks with the school to find out how to support them now. Then I went to Lusengeli Primary School for some period of time, for like 2 years, 3 years. Then now at that particular point in time is when my mom had now just stabilized in a job. I think I was 8 years old at the time. My mom now came and took me from my grandmother and took me to where she was working at the time. My mother had gotten a job in Migori. So we went and she had now bought a piece of land there. So that's how I ended up finding myself there and going to a different school called Rongo Success Academy, which, by the way, at the KCP that had the KCP results that were released, performed tremendously well. Yeah, the top student I think had 415 marks, Rongo Success Academy, and the last student had 355 marks, and there were 55 students. It's a very good school, a school that has molded me into the person that I am today. I keep telling people and they don't believe it, or some of them are just finding out right now, that the leader that I am today, the confident girl that people engage with today, the educated and very focused and dynamic person that I am today is courtesy of Rongo Success Academy. The director, Mr. Eliud Kondeo, is a man who has been very serious about education from the moment he started that school. It started as a small Mabati school, you know. When I posted the results on Facebook and I said I went to Rongo Success Academy, I saw some people attacking me and saying I'm privileged. What they don't know is that school started as a small Mabati school with class 1. The more as the years would go, like if we would start class 1 this year, the next year they would build class 2. The third year they would build class 3. And it was a Mabati school. And now it's a proper school. I think last year, 2019, the top student in the country came from Rongo Success. She was, I think, number 2 or number 3, top 3 student in the country in KCP came from Rongo Success. And a lot of people talk and say, oh, you know, the exams, we are rigged, we are usually given leakage. There is nothing, like absolutely nothing. It is just a quality, top, good school. And so I went to that school and I worked very hard. I struggled, by the way, because my mother was a farmer at the time. She still is a farmer. I come from a very humble background. So my mom is a farmer. So then what happened is that I struggled with primary school. In fact, I even left a debt of Denia Shule. Adisai, by the way. Yeah. They were just merciful to me, wakaniambia wewe, because I was a top student, by the way, in my year. I was a top student, I was a head girl. I did a lot of music festivals when I was in primary school. I did a lot of public speaking when I was in primary school. That is what shaped the person that I am. So because of that, the school was very lenient with me. Whenever I would be unable to pay school fees, sometimes my mom would peleka mahindi kulipa school fees yangu. Mama yangu alikuwa anabeba mahindi. Anaingia mkuu assembly ndio
kabisa.
Hapana. You know such things at that time, you know. I'm sure at that time she would be very embarrassed. So ilikuwa tu chini ya maji tu anapitisha tu anaongelesha mwalimu. Hey, bwana director, wacha mtoto wangu asome, here is a bag of maize. This is what I can afford. And honestly, that is how most of us have grown up, you know. I can't talk for the rest, but let me say that is how I have grown up. Then fast forward, I get to go to Loreto Limuru, which also happens to be a very good school. Yeah. I passed very well in my KCPE. I went to Loreto Limuru, not because nilitafutiwa, but because I genuinely worked hard and got there. The motto for Rongo Success was always labor to success. That work to succeed, that you will not just succeed. And I think that has been a guiding philosophy and principle in my life to date. You cannot succeed until you labor for it. And yes, there are young people, I know we'll talk about this later. There are young people who somehow succeed through the back door, but at the end of the day, it is not genuine success. And and by the way, they say, you can never hide anything under the sun, you know. You cannot hide anything under the sun for too long. You can only fool some people for some time, but you can't fool everybody all the time, yeah? So, I was taught that you have to labor to succeed, labor to success. That was the motto, and I went to Loreto. Loreto was the same issue. In fact, Loreto, the issues became even worse because here I am coming from a very humble background, and then, nimetoka Ushago. Yes, Rongo Success was a good school, but I was from Ushago. You know, I had a very heavy, at the time, because now I had come from Western to Nyanza, I had a mix of Luo accent and Luya accent, you know. And by the way, I see a lot of people my opponents in the campaign, because, you know, I'm vying, you will talk about my aspirations for politics at some point. I see a lot of people trying to attack me, saying, oh, mimi si Mluya, oh, sijua Maluo. I just went there to study. Come on, you know. Kuoga nimeoga. Sasa vile nikaingia Loreto, now the problems were compounded. Why? Because here I am, from a very humble background, in a school where most people are mababis and from very rich families, you know, from very wealthy families. Sisi, the school I went to, my friend, until changes were made very recently to ensure that schools, national schools, have a mixture of everybody. Let me tell you, my friend, people used to be visited with 5-6 cars. Na wamebebewa gas cooker, chakula inapikwa hapo. And you cannot even afford to be visited because my mother was coming. She could not even afford fare sometimes. Actually, most of the time, my mom could not afford fare to come from nyumbani to come and visit me in school. So most of the times, I would either not be visited at all, or I would be visited by my cousins when they had money. If they could find something small, they would come. And those are the struggles. And now, by the way, I got there and I got a lot of culture shock. But then it was worse for me, as I say, in Loreto, because here I am, very bubbly, very talkative, but coming from a humble background. Sure. Making friends every single day. Making new friends. By the time I was week 1 of school, I had made friends in Form 3, Form 4, and here I am making friends everywhere. I was hated from day 1. And let me tell you, Gachoki, there is absolutely no space I go to and I am not hated. Because I am just myself, you know.
I love you over here. So
I know you love me. But there's absolutely, the point I'm trying to say is that there's absolutely no space that I get into, especially a space that has a lot of people and peers, you know, competing peers. Even in politics right now, there's absolutely, Gachoki, there is absolutely no space I go to and I am not hated because I am just myself.
So the leadership now starts at Strathmore.
The leadership started way back from class 2 at Rongo Success Academy.
So shortly switch it from Success now to...
Perfect. I was just always a class prefect when I was in Rongo Success. I got appointed as a head girl at the age of what? When I was, I think, in class 6. At Loreto, I was always a class prefect. All through from Form 1 to Form 4, I was a class prefect. But then now the real leadership came when I was at Strathmore University. When in my first year of law school, after having gotten, first of all, I started with CPA at Strathmore University. I did CPA first. When I joined CPA, I could not afford the CPA school fees. And I had already gotten a scholarship. I was already promised that I would do CPA and then join law school on a scholarship. So CPA, I could not afford to pay school fees. And at the time, the student council at the time had just established a project called Elimisha Citizen, which is a project in Kiswahili means educate a Strathmore citizen. So I became the very first beneficiary of that project. And when I saw how that transformed my life, I actually told myself that when I would qualify to vie for student council, I would vie just so that I would be in a position to assist fellow students who are facing the same predicament as I was. So when I joined law school the next year, which was now in 2013, I had now met the qualifications of vying after 1 year. And by the way, I was the first law student to ever serve in the student council.
Because in most universities, you can't vie
if you're still in first year.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I was actually the first law student to serve in the student council. And I won massively. I served as the public relations representative. And it was there that I picked the project Elimisha Citizen. I did a lot of work for Elimisha Citizen. in fact, just the other day, you know how you have these Facebook memories. If you've pecued my Facebook, you probably come across a very recent post where I was mentioning how I had just walked to classrooms. You know, I was basically, my work revolved around fundraising for the project. I would talk to teachers, I would talk to students, I would talk to everybody to contribute to the project because I knew the impact it had had on my life. So I managed to raise within 1 year, actually it was over 500,000. I managed to raise, in fact, by the way, during my tenure, I think I would say I raised close to 1,000,000 shillings because I remember there's a fundraiser project I did where I raised 500,000 in one instance. And yes,
in campus.
I was still in campus. Actually, I think I was 21 years old.
Who are your friends?
It was not about who are my friends. It was a matter of me having belief in an idea, me buying that idea like nobody's business, and me selling it like it was the best thing ever. And I think that is what we lack, what our young people lack. The genuine passion and the genuine desire to do something. You know, that when you have something that you're doing, and I see how you're very passionate about your job, it is very rare. It's a very rare quality, by the way, to find in young people that a young person is just genuinely dedicated, genuinely passionate about delivering an assignment or working for a project they're working for. We lack that in our generation, and that's why people don't trust us with leadership. They think that if we are given this project, we won't deliver, we'll get along the way and get discouraged, or because of the excitement, we will not deliver. So I think for me, I killed the excitement of being a student leader. I focused on delivering this project. I was very passionate about it, and I could see how people's lives were being transformed. You'd find a story of a guy, like I'll give you a story of this gentleman. Wow. This one you need to take some water. There's a gentleman, why am I forgetting his name, and he's a very good friend of mine. This gentleman saw my project, Elimisha Citizen, when I was still a student leader, and reached out to me on Twitter. Said, "Hi Ruth, I am so and so." He's a good friend, I've just forgotten his name. And he's doing very well right now. "Hi, I'm so and so. I've seen you are doing Elimisha Citizen, and I'm supposed to join Strathmore University to do CPA. I think he was doing CPA or BCom, and I don't have school fees. Can you assist me?" I told him, "Reach out to me, here's my number." And he reached out. And that boy was persistent, my friend. Persistently texted me. He kept knocking. And that's another thing we lack as young people. And it is something I possess a lot of, my friend. I possess it in abundance. I knock. And I respect people who knock. People who persistently knock on doors because they know what they want, and they know that if they persist, they will get it. So I persistently knocked on doors. The boy persistently knocked and said, "Ruth, I need you to help me. You promised you would help me." I wish I can get his name. "You promised you would help me. You promised you would assist me. Here is my..." He would call and text every day. Paka nikafika mali nikasema, you know what? You know how the Bible usually says, that parable of the woman who went to the judge and consistently told the judge he needed help. Judge alikuwa nakasirika na mpaka siku moja akakasirika akasema, "You know what? Just because umenisumbua nakusaidia." So I'm not saying that the boy disturbed me or anything, but you know, I was very busy, but he persistently requested for assistance. And I said, "You know what? Let's meet." So we met, and he shared his story of how he was a hawker on the streets of Nairobi, but he had a dream. He wanted to do BCom, and he didn't have school fees. He was one of the beneficiaries of the project. Oh my goodness, if you know where the boy is right now. The boy graduated because of Elimisha Citizen, went through the entire BCom degree because of Elimisha Citizen, graduated. I think now he's doing his masters. As we speak, he's a married man with a family, and he's doing working a very serious job at Strathmore. He's in the cybersecurity industry now. A very senior, he's becoming one of the most respected brains in Kenya, in the cybersecurity industry in Kenya. And just because of Elimisha Citizen. And I have a lot more stories to tell. So now, because of that influence and how the lives of people are being transformed, I actually realized that leadership was my calling. That is when it hit me that if a small position such as student council is transforming the lives of this many people, then how many more lives would I transform if I joined actual leadership? So when I finished student council, I transitioned into youth leadership. I entered youth senate, you know. From there on, now I was in the youth leadership space. Then now in 2017, I immersed myself in the space that we now call the Kenyan politics.
Okay, I'll put a pause there. Because we'll still come back to that.
Yes.
So we need to I need to understand when you declared your interest to vie for Vihiga, that was in 2017, if I'm not wrong.
No, 2017. By the way, I was in the Raila Odinga camp, and I served in a group called Daughters of Raila as the Secretary General. And my work involved, basically Daughters of Raila was a group that had been formed to lobby for Raila Odinga's campaigns. And as a Secretary General, what I did is that I put up a very strong campaign team where we would go across, let me just talk about myself, because that's what I did. I would go across the country, of course with the assistance of one of the ladies, she's called Winnie Nyandiga. We would go across the country and set up country chapters that were campaigning for Raila Odinga. That's what I did for Raila Odinga. And I went to Mombasa, established Kilifi, Mombasa, Kwale, chapters there. I went to Western, I established chapters there. We basically were campaigning across the country for Raila Odinga. And I also ended up being, by virtue of being I was not a member of ODM per se. I was actually, have never been a registered member of ODM. I was just serving because I was very much a supporter of Raila Odinga. But now, for the women representative seat, I declared my interest to vie for Women Rep Vihiga County in November 2020 last year. Yes, November 1st.
So when you declared your interest to vie this seat, how was the reception? Because in this country we have this perception of if a young lady probably says they want to vie for a certain position, they'll be called names. Some will say, these are slay queen who wants to get into politics. So how was the reception? How's the reception by the family? The advice? You're in politics, that again, it's messy. Don't go to politics.
First of all, let me talk about how I got into it, how I made that decision. So I have a friend of mine who is like a mentor to me. He's a mentor, literally. He is the head of KYPA, Kenya Young Parliamentarians Association. And by the way, you should probably host him as well, yeah? I'll try and talk to him to come to the show. So he is called Anthony Buluma. Anthony Buluma is the one who introduced me to youth leadership space through Youth Senate. Right after, when I was still a student leader, he introduced me to the Youth Senate, and that's how I got into the youth leadership space. And he has believed in me ever since then. He's the CEO now of Kenya Young Parliamentarians Association. So Anthony Buluma, one of those fine days, called me to a meeting and told me, Ruth, last year too, November too, but actually October, towards the end, akanipigia simu akaniambia, Ruth, me, I know you're interested in politics. Na 2022 najua utavai. Nikamwambia yes. Akaniuliza, where are you vying? Nikamwambia, I've not made up my mind yet, but I have options. It's either I vie in Nairobi or I vie in Vihiga. Akaniambia, Ruth, let me tell you something. Forget about Nairobi politics. Go back to where you've come from. Mashinani, because that is where you are needed most. That is where your people need you most. And he was like, Ruth, with the skills and the way I know you, with your skills and your capabilities, and the vision that you have, and how you serve, I need you to go back to your people. Think about it. And I thought about it. Can I tell you, do you know I did not consult anybody else except myself and God?
You know, even made a phone call. Probably
I did not make a phone call to a friend, to a family member, to a brother, to any other mentor. I did not.
Just decided.
The only person I called again to a meeting was the same Anthony Buluma. 2 days later, nikamuita meeting, nikamwambia hapana. Those things you are telling me, are you serious? Akaniambia, Ruth, by then let me tell you. Nikamwambia, do you think I will manage Vihiga? I was actually asking him, do you actually think I will manage Vihiga? And those questions that you're asking. Nikamwambia, do you know, first of all, people will ask me a lot of questions that I'm not ready to answer, or questions that are unnecessary, or I will just, akaniambia, Ruth, let me tell you, so long as you have the backing of God, and you know what you want, and you're ready to be in the race and to commit to it, go for it. I prayed about it. I remember it was November 1st. If you check your calendar, November 1st, 2020 was on a Sunday. I was in my bedroom. I woke up in the morning.
This was a bedroom declaration.
It was my personal bedroom declaration. After having prayed, I asked God, should I go ahead? And the answer I received was, yes, go ahead. We all know how we communicate to God. And I officially declared, my friend, the first, was it 1 week or 2 weeks? The one thing I'll tell you for sure is that there was an outpouring of positive response, especially from my friends, online friends, because my own personal friends called me and they were like, yes, we've been waiting for you to declare. We're not so sure about the decision to buy in Vihiga. We wanted you to come to Nairobi so that you can vote. Most of my friends were saying you should have died in Nairobi, we would have voted for you. But you know what? We support you. We are happy for you. Now my photos started trending in Vihiga platforms.
These people will start digging.
Wacha waanze kuongea. Oh, slay queen. Oh, attention seeker. Oh, non-starter. Let me tell you everything that can possibly be said about a candidate in a race. I have only been in this race for how long?
3 months.
But guess what? I have had everything you can possibly. Zingine nasikianga paka nabaki najiuliza, way.
Is that
Huyo ni mimi. Do you know this morning someone called me? Someone called me this morning and gave me propaganda about myself. Paka nikamwambia, we, huyo ni mimi. You are sure that is me? Nikamuuliza, what is the source of that propaganda? Akanambia, my friend, it is going around. I have had everything you can possibly called all manner of names. I have been told I am a slay queen. I have been told I am a prostitute. I have been told I am a project of politicians. Not just any other prostitute, but a prostitute. Do you know what they call me? Oh my God. Take a sip. You need water. Mimi huitwa mboga ya wakubwa wa Vihiga, my friend. They actually, sijui kama ni ya kienyeji ama ni ile ingine. They call me mboga ya wakubwa. And you know that is not a positive thing to say. They actually say I sleep around with politicians.
For you to gain mileage.
For me to gain mileage. Take a sip. You need water. Mimi huitwa mboga ya wakubwa wa Vihiga, my friend. They actually, sijui kama ni ya kienyeji ama ni ile ingine. They call me mboga ya wakubwa. And you know that is not a positive thing to say. They actually say I sleep around with politicians.
For you to gain mileage.
For me to gain mileage. Take a sip. You need water. Mimi huitwa mboga ya wakubwa wa Vihiga, my friend. They actually, sijui kama ni ya kienyeji ama ni ile ingine. They call me mboga ya wakubwa. And forgetting is, if it is a question of sleeping with politicians, because in their minds, they see me with any politician, I have slept with them. Then I have slept with very many politicians, because Otieno Kajwang was my friend. The late Kajwang mentored me very well before he died. Raila Odinga ni mtu ananijua vizuri sana. I've met him so many times. I've worked for him. He knows me. Which other male politicians do I know? Mudavadi. Kwanza hiyo ya Mudavadi wameleta propaganda ndio nilikuwa nasikia leo asubuhi. Mudavadi is a very senior politician. I have met him, tumekutana, tunajuana. Who else? Uhuru Kenyatta. I have been to State House, I've shaken his hands. We recently arrived at Mululu together, you know, at Mululu at Mama Hannah's burial. Cleophas Malala is my very good friend. Godfrey Osotsi is my good friend. So many male politicians are my friends. Even Jichopevu is my friend. And not just Western region politicians. A lot of politicians are my friends. So many of them, you know. Senators, governors. We recently arrived at Mululu together, you know, at Mululu at Mama Hannah's burial. Cleophas Malala is my very good friend. Godfrey Osotsi is my good friend. So
do you feel, because politics in Kenya is about perception?
Yes.
And how you dub yourself and how you get to put yourself out there.
Yes.
People adapt catchy phrases.
Yes.
You have in Nairobi the women.
Mama Miradi.
There's Mama Miradi.
Mama Ta.
We had in Murang'a, we have Maitoa County. In Kiambu, that they are very popular. They are popular and notorious with that. We have Wamatangi,
Wamaduguru. Yes.
So does that? Do you think that branding itself,
yes,
Mama Masai and Mali Safi, probably has contributed also to people branding you those man of name?
Wacha nikwambie. First of all, what you need to realize is that taglines, politicians never give themselves those taglines. That is one thing people need to realize. Do you know the name Malisafi came from where?
You tell me.
Kakamega. At the Matungu by-elections.
Kakamega Malisafi imefika?
Uko ndo ilianzia. It did not even start in Vihiga. I got to Kakamega. I went there. I campaigned mercilessly for the candidate who won, Peter Oscar Nabulindo.
Yeah.
I campaigned mercilessly. And the boys there just decided you are Malisafi. They decided.
So that's where it started.
That's where it started. The youth decided ni Malisafi. And you see, the thing is, once, as a politician, by the way, you have very little control about the perception people have of you. When they call you Malisafi, by the way, and I need to clarify to people, when they say Malisafi, it is not in any way meant to mean that one is a prostitute or anything like that. It is just an appreciation of the fact that you're a beautiful woman. That's what they were saying. You are a beautiful woman, and by the way, umepanga kazi yako. So wakisema wewe ni Malisafi, they don't mean that wewe ni prostitute or anything. They mean that you literally are a beautiful woman, and they appreciate what they see. And by the way, it's both men and women. Go to my timeline, social media timelines, Facebook, Ruth Ambogo. You'll find people calling me Malisafi, even when I myself don't mention it. So it is something I cannot run away from. Mama Masa again is a title I was given by my campaign team. Wakasema Ruth, vile tunaona unafanya vitu zako, unazifanya na Masa sana, you know? And now they decided I am Mama Masa. And there is nothing I can do about it. It is just the people's perception and depiction of who you are. Huko Vihiga nasikia kuna wengine wanajiita tear gas, wengine wanajiita by the way wameitwa tear gas, wengine wanaitwa like there's another one, she's calling herself fire, you know. So
tear gas and fire.
Tear gas and fire. Then there is Mama Masa.
Mama Masa and Malisafi.
And Malisafi. Alafu tena kuna ingine. Mine is even called Ivikorwa. Mama Ivikorwa. Mama Vitendo. Mkana Ivikorwa. Like basically, I mean what I say and my actions translate to, my words translate to action. So there's very little, we have very little control. And by the way, there's another one coming up. Someone called me and yesterday and said, stop using Mama Masa. Wewe si mama. Wewe ni msichana, embrace your identity. And they said now I should start saying Mukana Masa. In Kimaragoli, Mukana means msichana. Msichana Masa. What can I do about it? You know, the people have spoken.
Politicians always say, the people told me.
The people have spoken. Do you know when they used to say that? I actually never used to believe it. When a politician tells you the people have told me, best believe the people have told them.
People always tell politicians. Even there's no politician who will say, I've decided to buy. The people have said, I am
but
supposed
sasa
to
mimi
buy.
wacha nikwambie, hiyo sasa inakwanga uongo. Hapo penye wanasemanga the people have decided I should buy. It's a lie bana. It's a personal decision. Politics is not easy. It's a personal decision.
Okay, let's move fast forward to the current leadership in Vihiga.
Yes.
How do you rate it? Starting from the governor, the senator.
Do you want me to talk?
Na ya women rep kanyagia kidogo.
Ungewacha tu because governor, senator is what
Huko
my interests are not there. Ungewacha tu nianze na women, but as you have mentioned, we have a very long way to go. One of the motivations for me to vie in Vihiga was the state of leadership in Vihiga. Oh my goodness, we have a long way to go. Do you know when you walk to Vihiga County, you will ask yourself, am I in a county? No offense. By the way, I'm just being honest. And this is what the people are saying. I even had a meeting with young people, a group of professionals meeting on, when was that? On Saturday, when I was there, on Sunday actually. I was in a meeting with about 15 professionals from Vihiga County. And the discussion was that they genuinely feel as if devolution haijafika Vihiga. They don't know what devolution, we don't know what devolution is in Vihiga. Pathetic roads, and when I mention that, I'm not going to mention names. You know who is in charge of roads. We don't have roads in Vihiga. Tendering processes za hizo barabara haziaminiki, hazieleweki. Projects za wamama, women have been neglected. The youth have been neglected. Yani, we don't even have, you know how jafika Vihiga? They don't know what devolution, we don't know what devolution is in Vihiga. Pathetic roads, and when I mention that, I'm not going to mention
ignorance.
Yes.
So, is there a town in Vihiga called Vihiga? Since you've mentioned that, because there's no town that you can get to Vihiga and say, I am in
No, what I meant is, there is no town of a proper town status
in Vihiga.
Mahali unaweza ingia tu na useme, enyewe niko kwa county.
The way you'll go to Kakamega, say this is Kakamega.
Vile utaingia Kakamega na utaona welcome to Kakamega. You feel like indeed I am in a county and this is the headquarters. Yani Vihiga imebaki tu pale pahali ilikuwa from the time I was a child. Barabara ni zile zile, maduka ni yale. Yani hata ukuje useme there's a new structure here. Hakuna, my friend. Ile ukuje useme ati we have a new structure. Ati now we have a new hotel, big hotel where we can say, you know, the status of the Vihiga County is big. Hakuna. And it is very unfortunate that the governor is doing very little. The healthcare status of Vihiga is absolutely worrying. I lost my grandfather in 2018 because of the healthcare status of Vihiga County. My grandmother right now is unwell, and by the way, I'm very worried because And it's not just, let me even avoid talking about my family. But generally, you walk into Mbale Hospital, you are told nurses are on strike. Do you know that healthcare workers in Vihiga County, this April as we speak, have not been paid for 19 good months?
19 months.
We are almost getting into 2 years plus of healthcare workers not being paid.
And how?
Let me tell you.
How does that work? 19 months, that is a total of...
That is why when you walk into those hospitals, they tell you, machine hazifanyi kazi. Not because that machine hazifanyi kazi, because they just don't want to work. Mbale Hospital, you walk there, sometimes actually it's genuinely that the machines are not working. You are told we don't have that service, we don't offer it. And yet Mbale Hospital should be a level 5 hospital. And by the way, the current woman representative, first and foremost, is a very arrogant woman. I'm just being honest.
Those are
no.
Those are very serious allegations.
Not allegations. She goes on video and insults young people and says at young people are bloggers mpaka what jiggers have wana blog mpaka jiggers zimemea kwa vidole. You are insulting young people who are blogging, and yet you have not created jobs for them. It is out of that blogging that they actually earn a living. They blog on a good day, akiblogia politician, maybe for example, anapatiwa ka 200 bob kake, anapata chakula ya siku. And you insult them, you say that wako na jiggers kwa mkono. She is a woman who, number one, disrespects her fellow women. I'm not talking about rumors. When we were in Kakamega campaigning for the candidate, she was talking that they actually earn a living. They blog on a good day, akiblogia politician, maybe for example, anapatiwa ka 200 bob kake, anapata chakula ya siku. And you insult them, you say that wako na jiggers kwa mkono. So first of all, we are dealing with a thug as a woman representative in Vihiga.
Okay, you already mentioned.
I've not finished. You wanted to know about the leadership in Vihiga. I was in Vihiga last Saturday. No, I was in Vihiga last Saturday. Biti Sadagala sent her PA, a boy called Ayodi, to come and beat me up in a meeting I was at. It took the intervention of an OCS to get me out of that place safely. They were almost hitting my face with bottles. I was in a meeting. And you ask yourself, is that the kind of leadership we want? If you get into a race and a big threat like Ruth Ambogo comes into the race, the best thing you should do is up your game. Na kama ground imekukata, imagine, imekukata, there's nothing you can do about it. So what we are saying is this, and the ground never refuses you if you're a good person. By the time you hear everywhere you go, and let me tell you, Gachoki, let's be honest with ourselves. We are here to talk politics, Tukwe too serious. Go to Vihiga and mention to the race. The best thing you should do is up your game. Na kama ground imekukata, imagine, imekukata, there's nothing you can do about it. So what we are saying is this, and the ground never refuses you if you're a good person. By the time you hear everywhere you go, and let me tell you, Gachoki, let's be honest with ourselves. We are here to talk politics. Akotukwa Mudavadi, she does absolutely nothing within the county. And why I bring up such issues is because the woman representative seat is a very powerful seat. It is a seat you use to look for funds. You don't rely on GAF only. You are a leader not just to rely on the resources you are given. You can't complain and say, the reason why I have not delivered is because GAF is kidogo. Kwani kina Aspirant wanafanya kazi gani? How are kina Aspirant managing a big county with the same amount of money that you are also given? Every woman representative is given almost 50 million. But how is it that Aspirant is able to do her job with the 50 million and Adagala is not doing her job? Because Aspirant, who by the way, I worked for as a legal advisor for almost 2 years, before I transitioned to other things, I went to focus on my education. Aspirant, who I worked for as a legal advisor for 2 years, is a woman who looks for partnerships. She uses her position to look for partnerships. Aspirant is able to do her job with the 50 million and Adagala is not doing her job because Aspirant, who by the way, I worked for as a legal advisor for almost 2 years, before I transitioned to other things, I went to focus on my education. Aspirant, who I worked for as a legal advisor for 2 years, is a woman who looks for partnerships. She uses her position to look for partnerships. Aspirant is able to do her job with the 50 million constituency. There's an aspirant called who, by the way, I worked for as a legal advisor for almost 2 years. Before I transitioned to other things, I went to focus on my education. Aspirant, who I worked for as a legal advisor for 2 years, is a woman who looks for partnerships. She uses her position to look for partnerships. Harris is able to do her job with the 50 million constituency. There's an aspirant called Harris, who, by the way, I worked for as a legal advisor for almost 2 years before I transitioned to other things. I went to focus on my education. Esther Passaris, who I worked for as a legal advisor for 2 years, is a woman who looks for partnerships. So we are coming up to offer solutions. And all we are asking the people of Vihiga is, trust us for once. Trust young people and see kama tutacheza na hiyo kiti mseme. Like for instance, I'm not saying trust us. Let me be categorical and say, for the woman representative seat, Vihiga people, trust Ruth Ambogo. And if I fail you, musiwai elect any other young person ever.
It's evident,
you know?
Yes. What you've said,
yes.
That Beatrice Adagala has totally failed. That's according to you.
Mercilessly.
To the people of Vihiga.
She has let down the people of Vihiga,
so
honestly.
It's already apparent that now you want to come and change.
Hey, for the woman representative seat, Vihiga people, trust Ruth Ambogo. And if I violence,
intimidation.
Yes.
And from what you've been talking about, you claim the victory at Matungu, that you were very instrumental.
Yes.
You played a very key role in that election. And actually, from other interviews I've watched about you, you claim to be the Mudavadi's #1 foot soldier.
Hashtag Musalia Mudavadi foot soldier 001.
So that election in Matungu
yes.
was marred by a lot of violence.
Yes, I know.
Voter bribery.
Yes, I had. Yes.
And the team that was at the center of all that, because it was evident, it was ANC, which is a team you claim allegiance to. So, what differentiates you from Beatrice Adagala?
Yes.
And you,
yes,
considering that you are part of the team that melted a lot of violence during the Matungu by-election?
One thing that you need to realize is that there is a lot that people don't know that of what transpired in Matungu. By the time Senator Cleophas Malala did the things that he did, my friend, a lot worse had been done to the ANC team. There was a lot of intimidation that was going on. ANC people were being mercilessly beaten up. The drama that was there, by the way, and let me tell you, media needs to be very objective in its reporting. What you need to realize is that political parties, there are certain political parties, and I won't mention names, that have controlled the media. And therefore, what the media reports is not necessarily, or rather they report half the story and leave out the other half. For instance, at no point were you shown how other political parties were seriously beating up our people. At no point were you shown how other political parties were actually the ones bribing voters. Even before, wait,
but these were
even before,
they were not done by, most of them are not done by media houses.
And I'm telling you, media houses select what to post. You are in media, you know. When the content arrives, no. By the way, you know, let me be very honest with you. I have been in the media space for some time now. And I have been in the media space for over 6 years. Since 2016. 2016 to now, we are counting 5 years, right? Actually, was it? No, I've been in the media since 2014. Being in the media since 2014 makes it 7 years of me being in the media. And I know what happens in the media. He who pays the piper does what?
Is it plays the road or something?
Plays the tune. He who pays the piper plays the tune. That political parties, certain stronger or more funded political parties, or parties that thought they were stronger than ANC, had control of the media. So when content arrives and you are shown that, by the way, even way before elections, this is the voter bribery that was going on in Matungu by these political parties. By the time inafikia producer anasema bana kanyagia your story.
But
there was massive rigging, as you are massive voter bribery, as you are saying, that took place in Matungu. But the massive voter bribery that was taking place in Matungu, my friend, guess what? Was from the bigger political parties we are talking about. ANC was not involved in voter bribery. The money that Cleophas Malala had in his hands was for paying agents. And agents have to be paid because they are working.
Why carry the money
yes,
to a polling station if it is for paying agents?
My friend.
Well, you can, because those are people you have had a working relationship with.
Oh, my friend, you don't know politics. Let me tell you. When you are in an election, when you are in an election on the day of the election, and you have agents, and you don't pay those agents on that very day of the election,
Why not
At
say
that
before?
polling station, my friend, at that polling station, you have lost that election. How many times have people lost elections? Just wait a minute. How many times have people lost elections simply because, my friend, an agent was not paid? And you can't control at what point you will pay an agent.
You have to pay
What
cash.
I will tell you, yes, you pay agents in cash. You
Why
pay
not
agents
mobile
in
money?
cash. Most agents don't have phones.
How?
Most of those agents, no, by the way, let me tell you something. We are having a very serious conversation here. Most of the times, you don't have time to even go to an M-Pesa. Remember, Matungu is Mashinani. You guys never went to Matungu. Matungu is deep Mashinani. Very deep interior Mashinani. So, first of all, accessing M-Pesa shops is very difficult. I was there when we were campaigning. Accessing M-Pesa shops is a very difficult process. You don't just access an M-Pesa shop ndani ya Matungu. So, and secondly, you don't control at what point you will get the money. What if the party leader had just given Malala the money at that particular period of time? That this is the money for agents, pesa imefika late. I'll tell you for sure, the win at Matungu was against all odds. We were the party that did not have money, by the way.
But people say that you are funded by government machinery.
Wapi? Where olisikia wapi? Where olisikia wapi?
Claim surface.
Do you know, I personally spent my own money to go and campaign in Matungu. Are you aware that I was not refunded even a single coin? That we were that underfunded in our campaigns. But against all odds and with proper strategy, we beat the big teams, the ODMs of this world, the Tangatangas, who had a lot of money, by the way. Na kwambia Matungu watu walikula vizuri. People ate vizuri sana. So they would go to the ground and people would be given up to 5,000 shillings za ati kupatia voter ndio wapigie kura. And despite all that, we as ANC, team kubwa, the team that is now going to form government with Musalia Mudavadi as our president, we managed to win.
So claim ANC was not in any way involved.
Bana,
in
my
voter
friend,
bribery.
si usikie vile nakwambia. Haikuwa na voter bribery huko. Voter bribery ilikuwa hizo big parties za kina UDA na kina ODM na kina which other parties were there. So hao ndio walifanya hiyo maneno.
So UDA is a big party.
Ati big party wapi? Si walishindwa Matungu, wakashindwa Machakos, Kitanda wanaenda kushindwa Kisii. It is not a party, my friend. Yo si chama. So now the owners of UDA are already coming back to ANC.
All politics is local. And,
yes, all politics is very local.
Davadi,
yes.
You've mentioned Malala.
Yes.
Let's talk about the Luhya unity.
Oh yes, that's a topic I like to discuss.
Luhya unity has been, the people of that region have been described as people who never vote as a bloc. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that
yes.
Mudavadi is a unifying factor? And it has been tried before when Atwoli even announced him in Bukhungu Stadium.
Yes.
I hope I got the pronunciation
Bukhungu,
right.
yes, yes.
As the de facto leader
of the Luhyas.
Of the Luhyas.
Yes.
Do you think Mudavadi will unite the Luhyas?
Mudavadi is already uniting the Luhyas. And one thing that I would like people to understand is that the dynamics at Matungu was one of our first steps of showing that indeed we are achieving the Luhya unity. That win at Matungu was a statement that a lot of people received. A very keen political eye would know that the Matungu win was not just a win. It was a resounding statement for the first time that Luhyas are actually united. One thing you need to realize about Matungu is that it had the tribe dynamics of a lot of different Luhya. You know, the Luhya unity has been elusive for a long period of time, and let me explain it to Kenyans so that they can understand. Because as a Luhya community, we have so many sub-tribes, and the foundation of the Luhya community, by the way, was that the Luhyas, the sub-tribes, were small kingdoms. The Luhyas established themselves, they came together as Luhyas under small sub-tribes that were previously kingdoms. They were small kingdoms. That's why you hear of the Wanga kingdom, the Banyore kingdom. So previously, as our initial socialization as a community was in form of kingdoms. So each of those sub-tribes actually had a king or some sort of sub-tribe leader that the community was ascribing to and listening to. So why the Luya unity has been elusive is not because hatuwezi unite. It's because we are so many sub-tribes, and each of the sub-tribes has always been feeling that, oh, you know, we also want to have our own leader. It is not because we hate each other, by the way. It has got nothing to do with us hating each other or anything like that. It is because we are just an independent, and by the way, one thing Kenyans need to realize, if there is a community that understands democracy, ni Waluya. Utaingia Vihiga County, governor ni ODM, women rep ni ANC, kuna ma MP kadhaa wenye ni Ford Kenya, a good number of MCAs are independent. We have PPK ya Karanga iko na ma MPs huko, iko na ma MCAs. My friend, yani, because of those dynamics of us having, we understand what democracy is. And that's why you find a lot of Luya parties led by Luyas mingi sana, for the Kenya, for the Asili, PPK, chama ni mingi, Mabadiliko party ya Oscar Kambona naona pia ni chama. Tuko na vyama mingi sana because we come from different sub-tribes and we all want to give the best of leaders. So now this time round, with the Kenya One Alliance, first of all, the indicators for Luya unity are: number 1, the Kenya One Alliance; number 2, the Matungu win; and number 3, the unanimous decision that the Western region has made and is continuously making to have Musalia Mudavadi as our spokesperson. And not just as our spokesperson, but as our leader. With time, more and more people are embracing him as our leader. Even recently, ANC party has been receiving people who had previously defected. Some of the names that you will see coming back to ANC, I will not mention names, are very huge names that had walked away and gone to other political parties. But let me tell you, this year, we have a few months left to the election. You will see the number of people who will defect back to ANC. Not because ANC is a party, not because of ANC as a party, but because of Musalia Mudavadi as a uniting factor. And not only is he as a uniting factor, just a mere uniting factor, but Musalia Mudavadi, my friend, is a gentleman par excellence. This is a man who is focused. This is a man who is composed. This is a man who the community can trust to resolve the communal issues, and not just the communal issues, but the issues of the country at large. That he is trustable, that he is a focused man. He, in the positions he has held in the past before in government, he has delivered. Of all the leaders in government right now, he is the least tainted, by the way. Scandals mingi hautasikia. You will rarely hear, let me just say, you will never hear Musalia Mudavadi in a scandal. Kama iko ni kamoja tu kawili. In fact, Kenyans need to know that the Goldenberg scandal was not Musalia Mudavadi being involved as a player. Musalia Mudavadi was involved in the Goldenberg scandal as a person who was trying to get Kenya out of that mess, and a person who was trying to get the culprits brought to book. He was not involved as an individual at Yeyeni, one of the people who stole the money. No. At the time he was the finance minister, right? He was actually involved as someone who was trying to get the culprits brought to book. And by the way, Kenya recovered part of the money because of his efforts. So there's a lot of history about Musalia Mudavadi that has not been written or that has not been reported on, simply because the history makers as well have been very biased. And Gachoki, this is a very serious point of information that we need to know as a country. And that is why, by the way, at some point I hope we'll discuss BBI. Part of what BBI is proposing is that there will be a commission that will rewrite Kenya's history, because there's part of Kenya's history that has been seriously misreported. For instance, no one ever tells you that when Musalia Mudavadi was the finance minister, that he was trusted at the age that he was trusted, because at the time, the country was collapsing in terms of the economy. Donor funds were withdrawing. Donor agents were withdrawing because we were at a time where multipartyism was a thing. There was a lot of violence going on in the country. Businesses had fallen. Just like now, we are in the COVID period of time where the economy is doing badly, not because of the president per se, but because of just generally the changing times. Of course, there's a part that the president has to play in it, but generally because of the current times that we are in, Kenya was at that particular time in the 90s at the same place where we are right now. The only difference is the dynamics were different. That back then it was multipartism and the country was falling apart. There was a lot of tribal violence and clashes going on. He was trusted as a young 30-year-old man to be the finance minister, and he led the country in a tremendous way. He brought back investor confidence to the country, and the country was able to stabilize. But because our history writers are very biased at that particular time and have been biased to date, get to hear of such beautiful things about Musalia Mudavadi.
Since we need to go on a short commercial break.
On a water break.
On a water
yes,
break.
Yes.
I want you to tell me about the Mukisa factor. And is it true that in Western you have to attend Matanga for you to be considered a leader?
Oh my goodness! Do you know, today morning I was having a phone call with the same person who gave me the very amazing propaganda that got me asking myself, is that really me? So the person called me and told me, my friend,
Wendangi Matanga?
Matanga lazima uende. By the way, it's not that I don't go. By the way, hata mimi nimeanza kuzienda. And I'm realizing that kwenda Matanga in Western, by the way, is not a little thing. They say, why they were saying that Mukisa haendangi Matanga, Mukisa is my good friend. But it is true. In fact, after this, I will tell him, by the way, my friend, if you are very serious about this presidency thing, itabidi umeanza kwenda Matanga. Kidogo tu, si mingi. Kidogo tu aanze kwenda Matanga. Going to Matangas in Western is a sign that you care about the people. It is a sign that you commiserate with their pain. It is a sign that you know, you understand their concerns. Hawataki uende kwa Matanga ati utoe 10,000. No. They just want to see that our leader is with us.
Hold that thought.
And by the way,
hold that thought kindly.
Adagala, aendangi Matanga.
You have to put that. Hold that thought. We'll be back and we'll dissect more on national politics,
yes,
with politics, because we have a lot of things to cover: judiciary, gender, and then we have our quick fire.
All right. Wakupewa shangwe ni wewe, wakupewa shangwe ni wewe. By the way, it is not you guys, it is Kenyans.
Okay. The political elite.
No, it's not the political elite. Remember, by the way,
you can't say all Kenyans.
Can I tell you something? Not all Kenyans are for BBI.